No, it is a fascinating thing, really, how a human being becomes what they repeatedly think about. We behave as if our thoughts are something that simply happened to us, like leaves blowing across a pavement carried by the breeze of circumstance, directed by forces outside our control. But this is not so. Most people are not thinking, they are being thought. And if you allow the old momentum of yesterday to continue unchallenged, you wake up as a slightly updated version of who you were before, never quite questioning whether you are the one steering the wheel. What I want to share with you today is not merely a technique, but a realization. Every day, you are brainwashing yourself either consciously or unconsciously. You are conditioning your mind with stories, impressions, memories, and assumptions about who you are and what is possible for you. And unless you learn to do this intentionally, you will inherit the patterns of the world by default. Patterns of fear, patterns of doubt, patterns of habitual limitation. So the question is not, am I brainwashing myself? The question is, what am I brainwashing myself with? And perhaps even more interesting, who decided that this is the self I must continue being? You see, if you look closely at the workings of your own mind, you will notice that a great portion of what you call yourself was simply absorbed from others. You carry the voice of your parents, your teachers, your culture, your religion, your friends, the television, the casual remarks people made about you when you were far too young to know that you were not required to accept them. You are, in a sense, a walking collage of other people's impressions. Yet there is something miraculous in this, because if the mind can be imprinted by accident, it can also be re-imprinted on purpose. If you can be shaped without your consent, then you can also shape yourself with full awareness. That is what true brainwashing is. The washing of the brain, the cleansing of conditioned debris, the renewal of perception so that you may finally see clearly. But this must be done every day. You do not drink water once and remain hydrated forever. You do not take a single breath and expect to live. The process of becoming a conscious being is continuous, rhythmic, alive. Every dawn is an invitation to step out of yesterday's shell, to reauthor the program running behind your eyes. Now, people often imagine that growth happens through monumental effort, through enormous decisions or grand spiritual transformations. But in actuality, the mind is shaped gently, subtly, through repetition. A single thought repeated 1,000 times becomes belief. A belief repeated becomes identity. And an identity repeated becomes destiny. So imagine for a moment that every morning when you wake, you are given the opportunity to write on the blank slate of your consciousness. What you write through your attention, your emotion, your inner dialogue will eventually crystallize into the world you perceive. This is why I say, what you do every day is far more important than what you do once in a while. Every day, you must return to yourself. Every day, you must choose the direction of your becoming. Every day, you must gently brainwash yourself into the person you intend to be. Not through force, but through awareness. Not through pressure, but through presence. Not through fear of failure, but through an intimate understanding that you are already intertwined with the very fabric of creation. You are not a stranger here. You belong to this universe the way a wave belongs to the sea. And the sea, you see, does not worry about how to be a wave. Now, if you observe your mind for even a short period, you will notice its tendency to wander into the past, rehearsing old hurts, into the future, constructing anxieties about things that have not yet occurred. And if you are not attentive, these thoughts take root. They become the default pattern. And very soon, you begin to mistake the pattern for the truth. But the truth is not found in the past or the future. The truth is found in the awareness of this moment. For only here can you observe your mind, gently redirect it, and plant seeds that will grow into the experience you call my life. So what must you do every day? You must interfere softly, deliberately with the old pattern. You must pause before the mind begins its usual performance. You must intervene in the narrative. Before the echo of yesterday becomes the script of today, you must choose something new. This is your daily act of liberation, the decision not to think what you have always thought. And this, in essence, is how you brainwash yourself for success. Not by drowning your mind in forced affirmations or unrealistic fantasies, but by repeatedly reminding yourself that you are not the stories you inherited. You are not the limitations you memorized. You are not the fears you practiced until they became familiar. Every day, you wash away a little more of what is not truly you. And in that washing, the self that had been buried beneath the noise begins to reveal itself, not as an achievement, but as a remembering. You begin to realize that success is not something you acquire. Success is something you allow, something you tune yourself to, something you become compatible with. You do not force a radio to receive a certain station. You simply adjust its frequency. And immediately, without struggle, the new signal becomes clear. This is what you must do every day. Tune the instrument of your mind. Adjust the frequency of your perception. Choose the vibration you wish to broadcast to this universe that is listening to you more attentively than you may ever know. And you choose this frequency with your attention. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Most people scatter their attention as if it were worthless. They place it on worries, on problems, on what they lack. They imagine that by obsessing over an obstacle, they will somehow learn to overcome it. But attention is nourishment. Whatever you give attention to grows, expands, and eventually becomes your experience of reality. And so, if you intend to brainwash yourself for success, you must begin with a simple question each morning. What do I want to grow within me today? If the answer is clarity, place your attention on clarity. If the answer is confidence, then practice thinking confidently. If the answer is peace, then choose peace not as an escape from difficulty, but as a foundation for wise action. The mind learns through repetition, and the soul reveals itself through sincerity. So the daily practice is quite gentle, really. You do not need to rearrange your life. You only need to claim a few moments each day, a private meeting with yourself where you set the tone for what you are becoming. A moment where you remind yourself that you are not merely a passenger in this life, but also the conductor. Now perhaps you wonder, but what do I actually do in this daily practice? Well, the first step is simply this: become aware of the noise. Most of what troubles you is not life itself, but the commentary running endlessly inside your mind. Thoughts arise like crows in the morning sky, one after another, flapping, cawing, demanding attention. Yet none of them are you. They are simply movements within consciousness. So in your daily practice, you learn to watch them as if they were clouds drifting across the sky of your awareness. You do not chase them. You do not fight them. You simply observe. And in this observation, something extraordinary occurs. The thoughts begin to lose their authority. They no longer command you. They no longer define you. And in the quiet that follows, you discover a freedom that had been there all along. Imagine it like this. Your mind is a glass of muddy water. If you stir it constantly with anxious thinking, the mud remains suspended. But if you allow the water to become still, the mud settles, and the clarity you sought appears naturally. This is the foundation. But then, once the water is clear, once the noise has begun to soften, you introduce a new thought. Not a thought borrowed from others, not a thought meant to impress, but a thought that resonates deeply with who you are becoming. A thought that feels like a tuning fork striking the truth. Something like, I allow myself to grow. I am capable of more than I previously believed. I am the one who chooses my direction. I am willing to think differently today. You see, you need not leap into grand pronouncements if they feel unnatural. Start with the thoughts that slip gently into the mind without resistance. Thoughts that feel like the tide easing onto the shore. This is how daily brainwashing works, not as an effort to force new beliefs, but as an invitation for the mind to consider new possibilities. And over time, the repetition of these gentle thoughts begins to carve new pathways in your consciousness. The old habit loses its strength. The new habit grows roots, and eventually, your dominant thoughts become those of possibility, creativity, and inner freedom. This is success, not merely the achievement of goals, but the mastery of attention. Success is simply the flowering of a mind that has learned to cooperate with itself. But there is another element to this daily practice, something often misunderstood. You must emotionally participate in the thoughts you choose. To imprint the mind, you must allow your body to feel the meaning behind the words. If you say, I am capable, and feel nothing, the mind takes no notice. But if you allow even a small spark of genuine belief to arise, the mind becomes attentive. It begins to reshape itself according to that feeling. Emotion is the ink with which the mind writes its programs. So every day, choose a thought, then breathe life into it. Feel its truth not as certainty, but as possibility, which is, in many ways, even more powerful. And gradually, you begin to notice that the world responds differently. Opportunities appear that you previously overlooked. Insights come to you without effort. You begin to behave like someone who trusts themselves. And this subtle shift in your inner landscape produces changes in your outer life that seem almost magical. But there is no magic here, only alignment. Now, before we continue, I must tell you something quite important. The mind is slow to change when you expect results quickly. Impatience is the enemy of transformation. You cannot plant a seed and demand that it become a tree overnight. But the seed is already a tree in disguise, and if you nurture it, if you protect it from the cold winds of doubt, if you water it with daily attention, it will reveal its hidden nature at exactly the right time. This is why the daily practice is essential. Not because each day will produce a miracle, but because each day strengthens the roots of your becoming. Those who fail to transform their lives are not lacking in ability, they are lacking in consistency. They try once, perhaps twice, and then return to their old habits, wondering why nothing has changed. But the old habits have been rehearsed for years. They are strong, well-established, familiar. And to dissolve them, you must offer your mind something new every day, without exception. This is not discipline, this is devotion. A devotion to the person you are becoming. A devotion to the life you wish to create. A devotion to the awareness that you are not merely a creature of circumstances, but a creator of meaning. So every day, you wash the mind, not forcibly, not anxiously, but gently, the way a river washes stones smooth over time. You return to the present moment. You choose your thought. You feel its resonance. And then you carry that vibration into the world, not as a performance, but as a natural expression of your inner clarity. You begin to realize success is not the outcome. Success is the pattern of being that inevitably leads to meaningful outcomes. And the pattern begins inside you. This is why you must do this every day. Not as a chore, but as a ritual, a return, a remembering. And now, having understood the subtlety of this daily inner practice, let us journey deeper into what it truly means to wash the mind clean, to refresh the lens through which you perceive the world, and to cultivate the inner conditions that quietly but inevitably shape your outer life. For the greatest misunderstanding about success is the belief that it is something one gets. In truth, it is something one removes layers of doubt, fear, conditioning, hesitation. You do not become successful by adding more to yourself, but by subtracting everything that obscures the clarity that was always there. Imagine a sculptor standing before a large block of marble. To the average person, it appears solid, lifeless, opaque. But to the sculptor, the masterpiece is already inside the stone. The sculptor does not create the statue, he frees it. He chips away what does not belong. And in much the same way, each day that you devote to this quiet inner work, you are carving away everything within you that is not aligned with the person you are becoming. This is why the daily ritual is so important. It is not about force. It is not about creating something from nothing. It is simply about revealing the self beneath the noise, revealing the clarity beneath the confusion, revealing the success that emerges naturally when the mind is uncluttered. But of course, life is full of temptations to forget, temptations to collapse back into old habits, temptations to believe that the world is against you, that you are small, that the universe is indifferent. These temptations are not punishments. They are invitations. Invitations to remember yourself. Invitations to practice. Invitations to choose your awareness again and again. You see, the world is not testing you in a punitive sense. Rather, it is mirroring your own inner state. It shows you where you are unconscious, where you are reactive, where you are still governed by old patterns. Every difficult situation is a mirror held up to your own mind, and the reflection it offers can sometimes be uncomfortable. But without this reflection, you would never know what still requires your attention or your compassion. This is why your daily practice cannot depend on your mood. What you do when you are inspired is not what shapes your destiny. What you do when you are uninspired, when life is dull or heavy or confusing, that is what shapes you. Because that is when conditioning is strongest. That is when the old patterns try to reclaim you. And if, in those moments, you return to your practice, you break the spell. Let me explain something rather important. Every day you hesitate, You strengthen the old self. Every day you practice. You strengthen the new self. It is that simple. But let us go deeper into this notion of brainwashing, because it is a word that often carries negative associations. People imagine manipulation, control, or loss of autonomy. But what I am speaking of here is the opposite. It is the reclaiming of autonomy. It is the conscious rewriting of your own inner narrative. The mind is always washing itself with something: fear, love, doubt, clarity. So why not choose the substance with which you wash it? Now, the most powerful substance of all is awareness itself. Awareness washes away confusion the way sunlight dissolves fog. When you simply observe your thoughts without identifying with them, they lose their power to control you. When you notice your fears, instead of obeying them, they begin to unravel. When you recognize your habits, instead of being compelled by them, they begin to weaken. Awareness is the great dissolver, but awareness alone is not enough. You must pair it with intention. Awareness clears the slate. Intention writes on it. Awareness removes the weeds. Intention plants the seeds. Awareness returns you to the present. Intention directs your next step. And so, each day, you must engage in two movements of consciousness: the dissolving and the creating, the clearing and the choosing, the releasing and the inviting. If you skip either one, transformation becomes slow and inconsistent. But when both movements occur together, the mind becomes a fertile field. Let us explore the dissolving first. Every morning, before the world demands your attention, sit quietly, even for a brief moment. Become aware of the texture of your mind. Is it restless? Is it anxious? Is it anticipating problems? Is it replaying memories? Is it seeking stimulation? Simply notice, without judgment. Bring your attention to the breath and feel the breath not as a technique, but as a reminder that you are alive, a reminder that you are here, a reminder that the present moment is the only place where transformation is possible. Then, gently, allow the thoughts to settle. Let them come and go, but do not feed them. Imagine them as ripples on a pond. They appear, they expand, they disappear. You are not the ripple, you are the water. In this stillness, you create space. And in that space, you may begin the second movement, intention. Intention is not wanting. Wanting often carries the vibration of lack. Wanting says, I do not have. Intention, however, is a declaration. It says, this is the direction of my becoming. Intention is not a demand, it is an alignment. It does not strain. It does not beg. It simply orients the mind. So choose your intention for the day, not from desperation, but from clarity. You might choose confidence. You might choose patience. You might choose creativity. You might choose self-trust. You might choose openness. The specific intention matters less than the sincerity with which you hold it. And then breathe that intention into your body. Let it settle in your chest. Let it warm your belly. Let it vibrate subtly along your spine. This is how you brainwash yourself, not with endless repetition, but with heartfelt repetition, not with empty words, but with embodied presence. And as you carry this intention through your day, notice what happens. You will begin to behave differently, not because you are trying to force new behavior, but because your inner state has shifted. The world will respond to you differently, not because the world has changed, but because the lens through which you see it has become clearer. Eventually, the daily practice becomes a way of being. You no longer need to remind yourself of who you are becoming, because you simply are it. But even then, the practice continues not as something you do, but as something you are. Just as a musician practices not to master the instrument, but to merge with it, you practice not to change your life, but to become life itself. Now, there is another dimension to daily brainwashing that is often overlooked. You must pay close attention to what you allow into your mind. The world is full of signals, some harmonious, some chaotic. If you are not mindful, you become a passive receiver of whatever signal is strongest. The news, the gossip, the complaints of others, the fears of society, all of these can become part of your mental environment. And if you consume them unconsciously, you begin to think the way others think. You begin to fear what others fear. You begin to limit yourself in the same ways others limit themselves. The mind is porous. It absorbs, it imitates, it echoes. So part of your daily brainwashing is the conscious curation of what you expose yourself to. This does not mean you must avoid the world. It means you must choose your influences with discernment. Surround your mind with clarity. And clarity becomes natural. Surround it with confusion. And confusion becomes the norm. Ask yourself each day, is this input strengthening the person I am becoming or weakening them? And if the answer is unclear, that is the answer. Now, another subtle but powerful aspect of this practice is self-compassion. Many people approach personal growth with a sort of harshness, as if they are trying to beat themselves into improvement. But self-criticism is a poor motivator. Shame is a poor teacher. You cannot hate yourself into becoming someone you love. Transformation requires kindness. Your inner environment must feel safe for new ideas to grow. A mind that fears punishment cannot explore new possibilities. A mind that feels unworthy cannot accept success. So treat yourself each day with the same gentleness you would offer a child learning to walk. Celebrate the small steps. Laugh at the stumbles. Continue. This is the paradox. The softer you are with yourself, the stronger you become. Harshness creates resistance. Gentleness creates flow. Every day, remind yourself that you are not fixing yourself. You are unfolding. You are remembering. You are becoming more of who you truly are. Now, there is one more element we must explore, the final pillar of daily brainwashing, and that is gratitude. Not the forced, superficial gratitude that many people practice, but a deep, sincere appreciation for the present moment. Gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about acknowledging the simple miracle of being alive. When you practice gratitude daily, even for small things, you subtly shift your attention from what is missing to what is already here. And because attention nourishes, what is already here begins to expand. Abundance grows. Ease grows. Beauty grows. And slowly, you begin to realize that success is not something you chase, it is something you allow. Gratitude is the opening of that allowance. So each day, consider a few things, small or large, for which you are grateful. Feel the gratitude in your body. Let it soften you. Let it expand you. And watch how the mind becomes receptive, spacious, open. This daily ritual awareness, intention, curation, compassion, gratitude is the true brainwashing. Not the imposition of new beliefs, but the cleansing of old ones. Not the forcing of transformation, but the allowing of it. And slowly something remarkable begins to happen. You stop trying to become successful, and you begin to embody success, not as achievement, but as presence. You walk through the world with a quiet confidence, as though you are aligned with some deeper intelligence. You act from clarity rather than fear. You speak from authenticity rather than insecurity. You choose from wisdom rather than impulse. And the world responds. People sense something different in you.